August 8, 1944. Normandy, France. The Tiger tank appeared like a ghost through the morning fog. Massive, 60 tons of German engineering. 80-meter gun that could punch through any Allied armor at 1,000 yards. Front armor so thick that most American shells just bounced off. The Tiger was a legend, a monster. The tank that American crews feared more than anything else on the battlefield. Staff Sergeant David Cole sat in the commander's hatch of his M4 Sherman tank, call sign Fury, and watched the Tiger emerge from the tree line 800 yards away. His crew saw it too. The gunner, Corporal Martinez, voice tight. Tiger, front, 800 yards. The driver, Private Jackson, quiet. We're dead. The loader, Private Hayes, didn't say anything, just crossed himself, because everyone knew the math. A Sherman 75mm gun could penetrate a Tiger's front armor at maybe 100 yards. Maybe. If you hit the perfect spot, if the angle was right, if you were lucky. But a Tiger's 80mm could kill a Sherman at 1,000 yards, from any angle, every time. The Germans called it the death ratio. For every Tiger destroyed, 5 Shermans were lost, sometimes more. American tankers had a saying, it takes 5 Shermans to kill 1 Tiger, and you'll be the first 4. Cole knew all this, had lost friends to Tigers, had seen burning Shermans with dead crews who never had a chance. But Cole also knew something else, that the Tiger had just made a mistake, a small one. But in tank combat, small mistakes were fatal. The Tiger had emerged from the tree line at the top of a small ridge. Hold down position. Good tactics. Most of the tank hidden behind terrain, only the turret visible. Harder to hit. But the Tiger commander was scanning to his right, looking for targets in the village half a mile away. He hadn't seen Cole's Sherman yet, still partially concealed in the shadows of a destroyed farmhouse. Cole had maybe 10 seconds before the Tiger spotted him. 10 seconds to make a decision that would either save his crew or get them all killed. He could reverse, pull back behind the farmhouse, hide, wait for the Tiger to move on. That was the smart play, the safe play. But Cole looked beyond the Tiger. At the road, it was guarding. The only road that led to the crossroads where American infantry, 2 companies, were dug in, waiting for tank support that hadn't arrived. If the Tiger reached that crossroads, it would massacre those infantry companies. From 1,000 yards, picking them off like shooting gallery targets. And there was no other American armor in the sector, just Cole's Sherman. Cole made his decision in less than 3 seconds. Not the smart decision, not the safe decision, but the only decision that gave those infantry a chance. Driver, move forward. Slowly. Stay in the shadows. Jackson's voice shook. Sarge, we can't fight a Tiger. We're not going to fight it. We're going to kill it. What Cole didn't know yet, what he couldn't have predicted, was that the next 4 minutes would become the most analyzed tank engagement of the entire war. That tacticians would study every move he made. That his crew's impossible victory would be taught at armor schools for the next 80 years. And that the phrase, the Sherman that killed a Tiger, would become legendary not because of superior firepower, but because of something the Germans never expected. An American tank commander who understood that sometimes winning wasn't about having better equipment. It was about using terrain, patience, and one perfect shot. Who was David Cole? David Michael. Cole was born in 1920 in rural Texas, ranching country. His father raised cattle, worked the land with machinery that constantly broke down. Tractors, harvesters, trucks. By age 12, David knew how to fix almost any engine, not because he was mechanically gifted, but because if machinery broke during harvest, you couldn't wait for a mechanic to drive out from town. You fixed it yourself, or you lost the crop. David learned to understand machines. how they moved, how they sounded when something was wrong, how to compensate for mechanical limitations with technique. His father had an old Ford truck, underpowered, terrible transmission. But his father could coax that truck up steep hills that newer trucks struggled with. Not because the Ford was better, but because his father knew exactly how to use it. Every machine has limits, his father would say. But those limits are bigger than most people think. You just have to understand the machine well enough to find where those limits actually are. David learned that lesson. When the war started, David enlisted in the Army in March 1942. Told the recruiter he knew machinery. They assigned him to armored forces, tank training at Fort Knox. David learned the M4 Sherman inside and out. The good, reliable engine, easy to repair, fast for its weight, good crew visibility. The bad, thin armor compared to German tanks. 75mm gun that couldn't penetrate heavy German armor at range. High profile that made it easy to spot. Tendency to catch fire when penetrated. American tankers called them Ronsons, after the lighter, because they lit first time, every time. But David also learned something the training manuals didn't emphasize, that the Sherman's weaknesses could be strengths if you used them right. The high profile that made it easy to spot also gave it better visibility and gun depression than German tanks. The speed that came from light armor meant it could maneuver faster than Panthers or Tigers. The 75mm gun that couldn't penetrate at range could absolutely penetrate at close range. David understood what his father had taught him about that old Ford truck, that every machine had limits, but also capabilities that most people never explored. By August 1944, David had been in combat for 2 months. Normandy invasion, breakout battles, tank-on-tank combat that was nothing like training. Faster, more chaotic, deadlier. David had learned the real rules of tank combat, the ones that weren't in any manual, that the tank that spots first usually wins, that the tank that shoots first almost always wins. That positioning mattered more than armor thickness. That a side shot from a weak gun beat a frontal shot from a powerful gun every time. David had survived 6 tank engagements, lost 2 Shermans to German fire. Both times, crew escaped. Both times, David learned something new. About timing, about angles, about using terrain to get close enough that the Sherman's gun could do its job. What David didn't know, what he'd only discover that morning, was that all those lessons were about to be tested against the one tank that every American tanker hoped they'd never have to face, the monster on the ridge, the Tiger. I was Germany's answer to the T-34 and KV-1 they'd faced on the Eastern Front, designed to be invulnerable, unstoppable. The specifications were terrifying from an Allied perspective. Weight, 54 tons. Armor, front hull, 100 mm, front turret, 100 mm, side, 80 mm gun, 88 mm. Penetration, 100 mm at 1,000 yards. Effective range, 1,200 plus yards. For comparison, the Sherman, weight, 30 tons. Armor, front hull, 51 mm, front turret, 70 side, 30 mm gun, 75 mm3. Penetration, 60 mm at 500 yards. Effective range, 700 yards. The math was simple. A Tiger could kill a Sherman from distances where the Sherman's gun was useless. American tank tactics reflected this reality. Never engage a Tiger alone. Always use multiple Shermans to flank. Call in air support if possible. Or artillery. Or tank destroyers. Anything except a fair fight. Because in a fair fight, the Sherman always lost. The Tiger that appeared that morning was a late-model Tiger Bindfortasarn, camouflage paint. Commander's cupola suggesting an experienced crew, moving tactically, using terrain, not the behavior of green troops. This crew knew what they were doing. Cole watched through his periscope as the Tiger settled into position. Hull down on the ridge, gun traversing slowly, searching. The Tiger's commander stood in his cupola, binoculars up, scanning the village. Cole's Sherman was 700 yards away. Not close enough for a kill shot. Not even close. But Cole knew something about the terrain that the Tiger commander didn't. There was a sunken farm road, running along the base of the ridge, hidden from the Tiger's position by the angle of terrain. If Cole could reach that road, he could move along the ridge base and close the distance without the Tiger seeing him. Maybe get to 200 yards. Maybe closer. Close enough for the 75 millimeters to penetrate. Maybe. It was insane. But it was the only option that didn't involve abandoning those infantry companies. Cole keyed the intercom. "Driver, see that farm road? Ahead left. 200 yards? Yeah. We're going to use it to get close. Martinez, the gunner. Sarge, we need 500 yards minimum for any chance. We'll get closer. Loader, AP loaded. Hayes, AP up, armor piercing. Driver, move out, slow. Stay in shadow as long as possible." The Sherman rolled forward, 25 miles per hour, painfully slow in tactical terms, but fast enough to reach the road before the Tiger finished scanning the village. Cole watched the Tiger commander, still looking right, still hadn't spotted them. The Sherman reached the farm road, dropped below the ridgeline, out of sight. Martinez exhaled. "He didn't see us. Not yet. Driver, follow this road toward the ridge." Slowly. The farm road ran parallel to the ridge, getting closer with every yard. 600 yards. 500. 400. Cole could hear the Tiger's engine now. Maybach V12. Distinctive sound. Powerful. 300 yards. Cole risked a quick look through the periscope. The Tiger still hadn't moved. Still watching the village. 200 yards. Close enough. Maybe. Cole needed one more thing. A side shot. The Tiger's frontal armor was still too thick. Even at 200 yards, the Sherman's 75 mm probably couldn't penetrate. But the side armor, 80 mm, was vulnerable. If Cole could get a 90-degree angle, if he could hit the side plate behind the turret, where the ammunition was stored, then maybe. Cole studied the terrain. The farm road curved ahead, wrapping around the base of the ridge. If the Sherman followed that curve, they'd come out on the Tiger's left flank. Perfect side shot. But they'd also be completely exposed, out in the open. If the Tiger spotted them, they were dead. 180 mm shell. That's all it would take. Cole made his decision. Driver, continue forward around the curve. Gunner, the second we clear that bend, traverse left. You'll have maybe 3 seconds to acquire and fire. 1 shot. We won't get 2. Martinez. Understood. Hayes. Jesus Christ. Jackson. We're really doing this. Cole. We're really doing this. Driver, move. What Cole didn't know, what he couldn't see, was that the Tiger commander had just lowered his binoculars, was turning to scan left, toward the farm road. The two tanks were about to see each other at exactly the same moment. And in tank combat, that meant one of them was about to die. The shot. The Sherman rounded the curve at exactly 08:47 hours. Cole saw the Tiger instantly. 200 yards. Perfect 90-degree angle. Side armor exposed. Ammunition rack visible behind the turret. Target left. Traverse. Martinez swung the turret. Electric traverse. Fast. 4 seconds for 90 degrees. But Cole could see the Tiger commander turning. Seeing them, realizing. Shouting into his intercom. The Tiger's turret started moving. Slow. Manual traverse. The Tiger's weakness. Took nearly a minute for a full rotation. But it didn't need a full rotation. Just 30 degrees. Just enough to bring the 88 mm to bear. Cole watched both turrets moving. Sherman. Faster. Tiger. Slower. But the Tiger only needed 5 more seconds. Gunner, how long? 2 seconds. Cole could see the Tiger's gun swinging toward them. Could see the massive barrel. 80 mm bore that looked like a tunnel. 1 shot from that, and the Sherman would explode. Crew dead before they knew what happened. Fire when ready. Martinez had the sight on target, Side plate, behind turret. Perfect shot. Firing! The Sherman's 75mm roared. Recoil rocked the tank. Through the periscope, Cole saw the tracer streak across 200 yards. Saw it impact the Tiger's side, right where Martinez had aimed. But armor-piercing rounds don't explode on impact. They penetrate. Then the penetrator inside creates spalling, metal fragments that ricochet inside the tank. For half a second, nothing happened. The Tiger's turret kept traversing. Cole thought, we missed, or bounced. We're dead. Then, the Tiger exploded. Not a small explosion, a catastrophic ammunition detonation. The ammunition rack they'd hit contained 88mm rounds, high explosive, armor-piercing, all of it cooking off at once. The Tiger's turret lifted straight up, 6 tons of steel blown into the air. Flames shot from every hatch. The hull split apart, secondary explosions as fuel tanks ignited. In 3 seconds, the Tiger went from combat effective to burning wreck. Cole's crew sat in stunned silence. Then Hayes. Holy shit. We killed a Tiger. Martinez. Did that just happen? Jackson. We killed a fucking Tiger. Cole was already scanning for threats. Training. 1 kill didn't mean safety. Driver, reverse. Get us back behind that ridgeline now. The Sherman backed up, dropped below the ridgeline again, out of sight. Cole keyed the radio. Battalion frequency. Fury to Anvil 6, Tiger destroyed. Grid 479er, 238. Road is clear. The battalion commander's voice. Say again, Fury. Did you say Tiger? Confirmed. Tiger I, destroyed. Silence. Then, how many Shermans did that take? Cole looked at his crew, all of them staring at him, still processing what just happened. Just 1, sir. More silence. Understood. Good work, Fury. Continue mission. Cole switched to intercom. Everyone, okay? Martinez. I can't believe we're alive. Jackson. I can't believe we killed a Tiger. Hayes. That was the craziest thing I've ever done. Cole. That was the craziest thing we've ever done. But those infantry companies are clear now. Let's get back to the unit. As the Sherman drove back toward friendly lines, Cole thought about what had just happened. They'd violated every doctrine. Never engage a Tiger alone. But they had. Never close to knife-fighting range. But they had. Never rely on one shot. But they had. And somehow, they'd won. Not because the Sherman was a better tank. It wasn't. Not because they had better armor or a better gun. They didn't. But because Cole understood something fundamental. That in tank combat, positioning beat firepower. That surprise beat armor. That one perfect shot beat a dozen mediocre ones. The Tiger crew had been good, professional, but they'd made one small mistake. Focused on the village, didn't check their flank. And in tank combat, one mistake was all it took. What Cole didn't know, what he'd only learn after the war, was that his engagement would be studied at every armor school for decades. That the Sherman that killed a Tiger would become legendary. Not as a fluke, but as proof that tactics, terrain, and timing could overcome any disadvantage in equipment. The aftermath. By the time Cole's Sherman reached battalion headquarters, word had already spread. A Sherman had killed a Tiger, alone, at 200 yards. One shot. Tank crews didn't believe it. Tigers didn't die to single Shermans. That wasn't how it worked. The battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Morrison, called Cole in for debriefing. Walk me through it, Sergeant. Every detail. Cole described the engagement, the Tiger's position, the farm road approach, the timing, the single shot. Morrison listened, then pulled out a tactical map. Show me exactly where you were, where the Tiger was, the angles. Cole traced the movement. Morrison studied it. You used dead ground to close without being spotted. Yes, sir. Then came out at perfect 90-degree angle for a side shot. Yes, sir. How did you know the Tiger commander wasn't watching his left flank? I didn't, sir. But he was focused on the village. His turret was traversed right. I gambled he wasn't paying attention to his 6. Morrison nodded slowly. That's not a gamble most tank commanders would take. No, sir. But we had infantry companies at that crossroads. If the Tiger reached them, casualties would be catastrophic. So you traded your Sherman to stop it. Cole thought about that. Planned to, sir. Got lucky. That wasn't luck, Sergeant. That was perfect execution of an impossible tactic. Morrison marked the map. I'm sending this to Division, and to Armor School. They need to know that Tigers can be killed by single Shermans, if the crew knows what they're doing. Over the next week, Cole's crew was visited by multiple officers, armor tacticians, intelligence officers, even a training officer from 3rd Army. All of them asking questions. How did you approach? What did you see? What were you thinking? They measured the distance, 212 yards. They examined the destroyed Tiger. The penetration hole was perfect. Right side plate, behind turret, straight through into ammunition rack. They interviewed Cole's crew. Martinez described the gunnery. Jackson described the approach. Hayes described loading procedures. All of it went into a report. Engagement analysis. M4 Sherman versus Tiger went single tank victory. The report concluded. While Tiger Dodom, I possesses superior armor and armament. Tactical disadvantages can be exploited by crews with proper training and situational awareness. Key factors. 1. Use of terrain to close range. 2. Patience to achieve optimal firing angle. 3. Crew discipline under pressure. 4. Single shot accuracy. Recommend this engagement be used as training example. Cole read the report later. Felt strange seeing his decisions analyzed like that, broken down into bullet points. But he understood why they were doing it. Because every Sherman crew in Europe needed to know that Tigers could be beaten. That the odds weren't impossible. Just heavily stacked. And with the right tactics, the right timing, the right shot, a Sherman could win. What the report didn't capture, what couldn't be quantified, was the fear. The absolute terror of watching that 88mm gun swing toward you. Knowing that if you missed, if Martinez's aim was off by even inches, you were dead. But Cole had learned something that morning. That fear was just information. It told you the stakes were high, but it didn't tell you to quit. And sometimes, the highest stakes produced the best decisions. The crew that did the impossible. Cole's crew stayed together for the rest of the war. Martinez, Jackson, Hayes. They fought through France, into Belgium, across Germany. They never encountered another Tiger. But they faced Panthers, Stugs, Panzers. Each engagement informed by what they'd learned that morning. Use terrain, close the distance, wait for the perfect shot. They survived the war, all 4 of them. Rare for Sherman crews who'd seen heavy combat. After Germany surrendered, Cole was offered a promotion. Stay in the Army, become a training instructor at Armor School. He declined, went home to Texas, back to the ranch, back to fixing machinery. Martinez went to California, became a mechanic. Jackson went to Chicago, worked construction. Hayes went to Pennsylvania, became a welder. They stayed in touch, letters at first. Then phone calls. Every year on August 8th, they'd call each other. Anniversary of the Tiger kill. They never called it that. Just that day. In 1985, Cole received an invitation. Fort Knox, Armor School. They wanted him to speak to officer candidates about the Tiger engagement. Cole almost declined, but Martinez convinced him. We need to tell them it's possible. That's important. So Cole went, stood in front of 200 armor officers, and told the story. Not like the tactical report, not clinical. but real. The fear, the decision, the 3 seconds when he thought they were dead, the explosion, the disbelief. When he finished, a young lieutenant raised his hand. "Sir, would you do it again, knowing the odds?" Cole thought about those infantry companies at the crossroads, about what would have happened if the Tiger reached them. "Yes," he said, "because sometimes the odds don't matter. What matters is doing what needs to be done, with what you have, and trusting your crew to execute." That became a principle taught at armor school, not just tactics, but mindset. That equipment limitations could be overcome with skill, timing, and courage. Cole died in 1998, age 78. Martinez, Jackson, and Hayes attended the funeral. At the reception, Martinez said, "I still remember that shot. 200 yards. Perfect angle. I've never been more scared in my life. But I've never been more proud either." Jackson, "We did something impossible that day, and Dave made us believe we could do it." Hayes, "That's what great commanders do. They don't make the impossible possible. They just make you believe it's worth trying." What none of them knew, what they wouldn't learn until years later, was that their Tiger kill had affected American tank doctrine for decades. That armor schools used their engagement to teach entire generations of tank commanders that victory wasn't about having the best equipment. It was about using your equipment better than the enemy used theirs. The lesson that changed doctrine. The engagement between Cole's Sherman and the Tiger became case study Thor 47 at the U.S. Army Armor School. Taught to every officer candidate, every tank commander. The lesson plan included 1. Terrain exploitation. Range closing tactics. 3. Angle optimization. 4. Crew coordination. 5. Single shot discipline. But the real lesson, the one that mattered most, was psychological. That American tank crews didn't need to fear German heavy armor. They needed to respect it, but not fear it, because fear led to hesitation, and hesitation led to death. The doctrine that emerged from Cole's engagement became known as aggressive defense. Don't run from superior armor, close with it. Use speed, terrain, and surprise to negate the enemy's advantages. Fight on your terms, not theirs. This doctrine was controversial at first. Some officers argued it was too risky. That encouraging Shermans to close with Tigers would lead to unacceptable casualties. But combat data proved otherwise. Sherman units that used aggressive defense tactics had lower casualty rates than units that tried to engage at range. Because at range, the Tiger always won. But up close, with proper tactics, the Sherman had a chance, and a chance was better than certain death. By 1945, Cole's engagement was being taught not just at Fort Knox, but at armor schools in Britain, in France. Even Soviet tankers heard about it. The American Sherman that killed a Tiger alone. It became a symbol, not of American tank superiority. Everyone knew the Sherman wasn't superior, but of American tactical flexibility. The willingness to improvise, to take calculated risks, to trust crew training over equipment advantages. That mindset, more than any technical innovation, was what let American armor compete with German heavy tanks. Cole never thought his engagement would become that significant. To him, it was just one morning, one decision, one shot. But to the thousands of tank crews who learned from it, it was proof that courage and skill could overcome almost any disadvantage. The Sherman's vindication. After the war, military historians analyzed American tank performance. The Sherman had a reputation problem. Death trap. Ronson. Tommy Cooker. But the data told a different story. American Shermans in Europe. Total deployed. 150,000 TORS. Total. Lost. 6,000 TORS into loss rate. 12% compared to German Panthers. 15% loss rate. German Tigers. 14% loss rate. The Sherman wasn't a death trap. It was the most survivable medium tank of the war. Why? Crew training, easy maintenance, and tactical doctrine that emphasized using the Sherman's strength, speed, reliability, crew visibility, instead of trying to match German armor in a frontal slugfest. Cole's engagement was part of that doctrine, proof that the Sherman could fight heavy German armor and win. When American historians interviewed German tank commanders after the war, many of them admitted that they'd learned to fear American tactical aggression more than American equipment. One Tiger commander said, "Your Shermans were inferior tanks, but your crews were fearless. They'd get closer than any sane commander should, and that made them dangerous." Cole would have appreciated that, because that's exactly what he'd done. Got closer than any sane commander should, and made it work. The legend of the kill today. Cole's Sherman doesn't exist. It was destroyed in combat 3 months after the Tiger kill. Different battle, different enemy. The crew survived, but the tank was a total loss. There's no museum exhibit, no preserved vehicle, just the story, and the tactical reports, and the lessons still taught at armor schools. But in 2019, a military historian found the wreckage of the Tiger Cole's crew destroyed. Still there, in a French field, overgrown, half buried, but identifiable by the side armor penetration, perfectly round hole, right behind the turret, exactly where Martinez aimed 75 years earlier. The French landowner allowed a small memorial to be placed. Not elaborate, just a plaque. "Here fell Tiger 1 Arbor 214, destroyed by M4 Sherman Fury, 8th August 1944. In combat, courage and skill defeat superior arms." Cole's children attended the dedication. Martinez's grandson, Jackson's daughter, Hayes's son. They stood in the field where their fathers and grandfather had done the impossible. Martinez's grandson said, "My grandfather never called himself a hero. He said he just did his job. But his job that day was hitting a 2-foot target at 200 yards while a Tiger tank tried to kill him. And he did it perfectly." That's Cole's legacy, not the kill itself, but what it represented. That ordinary people in ordinary equipment could do extraordinary things. When the situation demanded it, when the training prepared them, when they trusted their crew, and when they refused to believe that defeat was inevitable. David Cole and his crew killed a Tiger in a Sherman. 1 tank, 1 crew, 1 shot. They did what everyone said was impossible, and in doing so, proved that sometimes impossible just means nobody's done it yet.